our chair, Pandit Uparatana, sometimes so bad in the remain names, and then also our venerables and also chaplain Johnson, and then everyone's here. Okay. I would just like to take this opportunity to introduce one of my favorite subjects is about anger, because I'm not here to addressing this issue about the people sitting here, or maybe even for the audience somehow you could read in the future in the internet, but sometimes it's good that I can reflect myself by talking about anger, because I have the anger issue sometimes. Anyway, but now I'd like to also say that before I'm going to talk about this, the anger issue, of course, you certainly could find a lot of sources from the Buddha's teachings, but this time I'm just based on what we call the Pali text, or early, what we believe is Satanism. So far now we have the most earliest Buddhist text, and certainly be written down even before the Christ time. So in other words, you could say that it's very much reliable sources that highly probable that would definitely speak by the Buddha. Okay, I mean that's certainly for research before there would be a question. All right. The topic is anger and its removal from the Buddha's advice. So I'm going to talk about these two addresses. One about is that what this anger is about, but I don't want to dive too much time on the nature of anger, because I think there are lots of texts saying about that. It's actually much more interested in saying that we do have an anger issue. What that the Buddhist or early Buddhist text advise us to remove it, and why, and so forth, and what are the methods, and is that possible, something like that. And so I like to put it the name is called anger and its removal from the Buddha's advice. Okay. First, look at the Majjhima Nikaya, one of the discourse, what we call the Middle Length Discourse, and Sutta number 15. And this text actually has been addressed not by the Buddha himself, but by one of the most popular students, or you could say disciples. So he's the Mahamoggallana. Everybody who are Buddhists certainly knows his name. Okay, that time he was living in a place. It's not in the Jetavana, but in other places, and we recorded Besakala graph in the Deer Park. Okay, and then the time I think there might be some incident happened. I didn't have the time to look at the commentary yet. Yeah, but however. Certainly the Mahamoggallana, when he was living there, he was saying that, even though, sometimes it happened that the monks come to tell you, so like in the community, this is about the community now, in the community the monks, now, I mean, not necessarily just monks, since this is mainly focused on at that time that the monastic members, and when the monastic members come to tell you that, oh, please advise me, I like to advise by you, and so forth, But the fact is that they just been trying to be polite. They say, oh, you are a good monk, I come to stay here because then you can give me the good advice. But then that case is not happening. Because lots of things happen after some time, they never want to listen to you. Okay? And I'm sure this has happened to in a company and any kind of work life and whatever. This that's it's something happened. And the problem is that, and then you come to the point at the end that you just thought, come to a point that you just thought, these people you cannot teach them anything at all. And the worst thing is that there's a part we call visasa. I mean, you don't trust them anymore. That you don't even want to speak anymore, because whatever you speak, he will never listen to you. Now, this is one of the discourse, what we call the discourse on the reference mentioned that. Now, just look at a little bit on what kind of thing that makes that difficult to admonish. First is those monks having this kind of evil wish. For example, when they want to stay in the community, they are not really only thinking about doing the job for the duty of as a monk, or the duty as serving for the people or helping the society. But maybe they want to just get famous and so forth, right? And these people have this kind of mind is very hard too, because whatever you talk is not in their agenda. So I don't want to say that, because this is not my main topic today. Anyway, also that's one thing. Another monk is also, they think that they are very so proud of themselves. Oh, I come from the best teacher. Or I come from which temple, which is the biggest temple. And this I always encountered when I was an abbot, even in Joining monastery in the past. in that you face this kind of monk. Maybe they didn't say directly, but that's when they show. They tell you first that I come from this, and they think that because my teacher is so famous, I am also. You should, you should listen to me in some way. So, but the problem is that the monk allowed himself and then disparage others. Not because he thinks high of himself, but he started to look down everybody. Who are they? This is nothing. And of course, we know these kind of people so difficult to really give them advice. Now, actually, this is my main focus is here. And this should also mention, besides this kind of two kind of monk, or maybe all they can mix together, all this kind of problem. However, there's also one kind of monk. The monk can be very angry, and then he will overcome by angry. Okay, and also and angry, and not only just angry, become resentful also. And because of the anger, you get resentful. You know the reason resentful in Buddhist understanding here. The word here refer to, when you get angry. Sometimes when you get angry, you get so much angry because you think that why I should angry. You know what I'm saying? Then you become resentful, right? Right. In other words, you could say that you're getting very angry because you're angry with yourself now. Let's say you make a loss of temper in some house while you're doing administration work. That's very often happen, right? And afterwards, you're getting really sulky in a certain way. Why you become sulky? It's because you're resentful. Okay, that's what the second say. That's the way to say. And the third stage, now once you become resentful, and then you come to another stage, you become stubborn, that you don't want to change. Because you did something, you've done something, let's say you swear to the people already, right? And then, or you show your anger or not, you're already. So what you have to do is that you become stubborn. You didn't want to change. You didn't want to say, I shouldn't swear, I shouldn't do that, But it's just that anger. And the sixth one, actually this here, the fourth one regarding anger, is that, and then it suddenly, and then you will become, whatever he would say is, deal with the anger. For example, when you have that kind of stubborn, you don't want to get rid of it, and what do you say? You will say, let's say, people give you a drink. At the time, usually you will say thank you. At the time, you will say, why you want to give me a drink? This is what all languages call, so the words bordering on anger. This is based on the Pali language anyway. So those are the difficult people you might be encountered. And that's what the monks say. Okay. And the other will just, I don't need to say too much. Basically, it's certainly to do with that when you want to say something but you did not get approved by the people, especially a teacher and so forth, and then of course you started to react, And those are the few of things. And also, and then the monk, if they have this contemptuous and insolent, this kind of idea. And in other words, they show their rude, they become very rude, what we call the insolent. They don't respect, and they just start. Usually they will say nicely, and that time they will just show, I don't care, like that, this insolence. And all the bhikkhus become envious and avarice, and also again become fraudulent and deceitful, and obstinate and arrogant. Anyway, those are the 16, including 117. That means at the end, he will become whole on what he thinks is right, and he will never want to change the way that is not right. Now, actually, this sutra, I want to say so far, of course, there's a big analysis about, later on the Buddha say about how you deal with all these problems. I'm not Buddha, sorry, the Moggallana, the main disciple. But here, I just want to focus on the first four regarding to the anger. Okay. Now, we know that there was one sutta mentioned. We will look at the other sutta. But the interesting is that, actually, before I go there, and then he did say this. He say, if the people, friends, because that disciple tell the monks, when a bhikkhu reveal himself this, that means those problems, if he sees that these evil, unwholesome states are not all abandoned in himself, then he should make an effort to abandon them. That's very important state. You have to make effort to do that. Really want to put that aside, And then he said, why? But if when he reveals himself this, he sees that they all are abandoning himself, then he can abide happy and glad, training days and night in wholesome state. Well, maybe the purpose of this in the sutta is very clear. Just to say, if that monk, if they don't abandon those, just we mentioned 17 things, then they could live in happily, right? And they could live in happily, and they can study the teachings well, okay, even day and by night, or could say being trained day by night. You know. Don't you have this problem? Well, I mean, maybe no, maybe you're very lucky, but I've been monk for 30 years now, and I live in a different monastery in the past. And if you ask me, I could tell you each by each the story, you know, but here is not the storytelling. Then this is certainly happen, and it includes everything here. Don't either people stick to their view, they think, oh, I learned the base teaching like a Mahayana, or I'm the original teaching like Theravada, and all these ideas. And then people hold that, what are you talking? I don't care, you know. And even though they show their very, you know, they're obedient and sit there. Trust me, I had this experience. I teach meditation, and those students could sit there for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They never heard what they are saying. You know, in the meditation we did, we have 5-day retreat, 7-day retreat, 10-day retreat. They sit there because I don't know how patient they could. I should appreciate that, they're patient. But actually, after you ask them, do you learn anything? No. And later on, they almost tell me, even some monk will almost tell me, I didn't even hear you what you're saying because I have my own practice. I don't care. You know, I mean, okay. So then, this is since I'm here. Okay, let me just keep on. So the interesting thing is now here the Moggallana advised that you see if you change that kind of attitude and reflect upon it, you know that this is not good for you. Why? Once you can learn how to abandon it, you're definitely happy and live in happiness and glad. What do you call this? Gladdening, you know, kind of feeling. This is an Pali word. So called, you know, piti, amojana, vidadapa. Okay, vihadapa. Just you live in that. You to live in that kind of happiness, you know, state, and then you can learn well. All right. That's how it is. But now let's just just as it say that just as someone, you know, a young people or beautiful person, they take their face, you know, in those days they look at the clear mirror. They don't have mirror in those days, you see, like the clear thing, like a bronze, clean place, or even reflection from the water. So and they saw the face had the blemish, you know, a kind of blemish there or some like a dark dirt there. Of course, immediately you want to remove it. The same thing. That someone who don't have that what we just mentioned, the 17 kind of problem, they must learn how to remove that. You know. So that he could live happily. All right. Now we then and look at another very interesting story that happened in another city called Alavi. And the story actually come from, the story was told, even from many places, but particularly in Dhammadipa, it has said that one verse is very famous, one should control the anger that has arisen just as one does a rolling chariot. Okay, this is one of the very famous Dhammadipa from the Dhammadipa. And the verse 220, actually the story comes from because in Alavi it happened that the monk, so the incident is like that because the monk, because they want to build something and they cut the tree. And this has also actually become one of the incidents, people always quoting that Buddhism care about the nature. Okay. Now, this is interesting anyway, you want to cut the tree and to construct something. However, it is said that when the monk want to cut the tree, or all the people to cut the tree, but somehow there was a time that then the deity who live in the tree, you know, and then telling them, don't cut the tree, you know, because we live there. But the monk, because out of their own reason, and they don't care, they just cut. What's happening? And when they cut the tree, they hurt the deity's child arms. It's said that the story is like this. It's a very popular story, and because it hurt the child's arm, of course, then this deity was very angry. He had the power. He said, "I should kill on the spot to kill this monk," you know. But then later on, he thought, "No, I shouldn't do that." You know, I still believe that, or you could say this Indian culture believe that the tree had the god, the deities live there, and the deities is, when you say deity, mean they are not Raksha. They are not bad people. They don't really easily harm person. Even though he was so angry because his child was hurt, So, and then he said, okay, right now, I don't do that. Now, why don't I just go to approach the Buddha and tell them that, you know? In other words, I'm sure the intention is very clear. He wanted to see the Buddha and ask the Buddha to tell them, don't cut the tree, you know? Okay, but the story can be interesting, okay? But the thing it is, but of course the Buddha was at first admired the deity, saying that you were really nice because you are as a deity, you were powerful, you could easily kill the monk instantly. But you didn't do that, so that you didn't do anything is not good for your merit. Okay, you know, in Buddhism we believe in punya, the merits, you know. And then, however, but he say, but then the Buddha say that, you know, you go deity in such an area, there's an abandoned tree, you should go there, you know. But he say that, but then, you know, why do you want to stick there? Why don't you just move other place? And then the place, now the word is kind of viditoi pali here. It's implied that the place actually is the place that means they were the days live there, but they pass away already. So, and it's not like the tree is abandoned in a way what we say the tree nobody want it. It's just supposed to be a nice tree, must be big tree in general. Then it should be like, and then there was some deity live there, but they pass away. Now you could live there. Why don't you just go at that side? Now, of course, that's why you have this verse, and then the Buddha's advising say, one should control the anger, because of course the deity was anger. He said one should control the anger that has arisen just as one does a ruling chariot. Okay, all right, the deity did his job. However, people notice I'm not very happy with the Buddha also. He said, did I put it here? I don't know. Let me see. Sorry. Okay, yeah, I didn't put it here. But anyway, they were not very happy, and then people would say, why the Buddha actually asked the deity, move? Why don't the Buddha ask the monk, stop cutting the trees instead? You know, they would have a complaint. But this incident actually not only record this in the what we call the commentary on the sutta, but it also record in the Vinaya. Why? Because of that reason, and it's kind of like, you know, lots of people were like speaking about that. So then, for a month, we have 227 rules, and then one of the rules being laid down by the incident is then that's why, actually, according to the monk's rule, the monk cannot kill a tree. Okay, if you kill a tree, and then you will commit what we call the bhajitiya as a rule. Okay. But of course nowadays it's a little different. But however, still, you know, some are very strict. So if you be a monk, you're lucky. You don't have to do that. You ask people, okay, this is not my job. I don't even know. So you just kind of do the job. Anyway, I just want to say, according to monk rule, since that incident, and then we are not allowed to kill the tree. But of course, it's not a big offense if you did it. You know, it's called bhajitiya. It's kind of like you can just, once you did that, you just confess to a monk, I did that. That's okay, but still it's a rule, you know, become a rule there, okay? And now, it is believed that after this case happened, and then the Buddha advised the monk, because of Bhajitiya was laid down, and then the Buddha laid down, say these words. This is from one Sutta Nibbāna, very famous, the first sutta of the Sutta Nibbāna, saying, one who removed the anger that has arisen as one removed with a herb, a snake spreading venom, you know. That bhikkhu gives up here and the beyond as a serpent shed his old worn out skin. Okay. Now actually based on this sutta we're taught. Now I just want to say that the incident comes that the Buddha also not just because of the incident laid out the rule for the monk, but he also had to admonish the monk how to remove the anger. I to my understanding that including if we put this incident together, including people are not very happy, right, with the decision made, you know, by the Buddha asking the deity, why don't you move to the old place? You see, that also shows unhappy kind of emotion. All right, now we come to that another sutta, that in Majjhima Nikaya number 60, called the Cetokila Sutta. And this sutta certainly have to do with what I'm going to talk about, anger. Because at that time, the Buddha advised the monk bhikkhus that if any bhikkhu who has not abandoned the five wilderness, this is how we translate in English, it's called Jedokila, in the heart, and not severe fine shackles in the heart should come to growth. And in other words, if they don't abandon those kind of things, and then he will just cannot fulfilling the Dharma and discipline. He said that is impossible. In other words, you have to abandon them. So, so what are these kind of 5 Jelokila? Now, first, what is it mean by the wilderness? Of course, in English we say wilderness. But what does wilderness mean? In commentary, say it's understand as Chittasa Tatta Bhava, Kachawara power, Kanuka power. Okay, something like becoming, it's the mind that becoming callous, becoming something that will let you to fall. What we call this is how the simile they like to use called the root stumps. That when you walk, if you don't know there's a roots there, and you will just fall. In other words, mean you will always fall. You will have not always can go through your practice smoothly. And then he mentioned there are 5 of them. One is that they have the doubtful, uncertain, undecided, and confident about the teacher. Okay. And the second, they have the doubt, uncertain about the Dharma. And the second, the same thing that they have the doubtful, uncertain about this. I write Sangha, yes. And then the third one is that uncertain about the training. Like when you go to train your meditation or you train your teaching, you're learning the teaching, and you start to have doubt. Is that this works? And the fifth one is that a bhikkhu is angry and displeased with his companions in the holy life. In other words, if you live in a place that you are not happy with the people who live with you and study together, and then you almost like you always fall, for practice. Now this go back actually, you could, if you want to allow me to link it together, you can go back to the first sutra, saying that by the Moggallana saying that because if you have those holding your view, if you have anger issue, you don't solve that. Or not because you just anger, but then you hold on it and you're stubborn on it, and then you also with the anger you do a lot of things like that. So then you have no way to stay in the, people cannot stay nice together. I always tell people actually, when we have a chance to be together, of course we all have different opinions. We are not the Buddha. We have different opinions, and we are not the Arahant, even not the Anagami according to Buddhist understanding. Unless you are the Anagami or Arahant or the Buddha, the anger completely lost. Otherwise, even though you are the saint, like the Sotapanna or Sakadagami, even, you might be have anger issue too, So this is about the Buddhist kind of understanding of the practices. So we said that but then we must learn how to reflect the problem. Okay. I think I forgot to put it here, but maybe I didn't put it here. Accordingly, actually, the first sutta I will just mention about by Moggallana. In the commentary, understand that sutta actually is what we call the Patimokkha, the monk wisdom. Traditionally, the monk, according to the commentary, the monk had to recite the first sutra about when they cannot, like every day, they have to recite at least 3 times, according to commentary. If they cannot recite 3 times, they recite 2 times. If they cannot recite 2 times, they recite once, at least once a day. Because, this shows that you could see even maybe during the Buddha's time, how problematic the community could be when the monks stay together, or the nuns together maybe, And that's why I also think that next time this is maybe in the future become our rules, or the monk have to recite it every day, If it's not 3 days a time, 2 times a day, at least 1 time a day. That's the sutta. Okay, I just mentioned in the early one by Moggallana. Okay. All right. Now, here, if we talk about the anger issue, we know something. We don't necessarily know the whole deep of it, but we know that how problematic it could be. Now, and then is that really this kind of resentment or anger issue that makes a resentment or anger? Could that really be removed? This is what I like the Buddhist teaching in some way. It's because it's not just giving you saying the problem is there, but certainly have a very clear teachings telling you, according to the Buddhist understanding, the Buddha's understanding, that how you actually should remove it. So first we must understand they are removed basically I think I maybe laid this thing a little bit wrong, sorry. Because I didn't have time to review that. Okay. Let me just shift this. Okay, I'll say this first. So accordingly, so the remove is that if you divide it into two parts, one part is that one remove is that you have to develop, there were 5 kinds of quality. One is that the loving kindness, that's always we talk about metta, meaning you must have this kind of love to yourself and to the other. Must remember, not just the other, yourself and other. Because in Buddhist teaching, you don't learn how to love yourself, you never learn how to love the other. Okay? That's it's very important. And the second, and then one have to develop this compassion. I'm sure I don't need to say what is compassion now. And then one have to develop this equanimity as the third one. So it means you must have the mind really calm down, equal mind. No love, no compassion, but something really like calm down, right? And the fourth one, you have to, and the fourth one actually, I think I maybe missed one, should be the fifth one, sorry. The fourth, maybe the third one should be the joy. Okay, you must deal with the joy. I think I missed it. Let me look at the part. I don't have time to look at the whole, but it's maybe the joy. You must have the joyful mind. When people get angry, it's because you're not happy, for sure. You have to be happy, and you change your mind. That's why when people are not happy, try to make them happy. Give them a good food to eat, and somehow make it just cheer the person up. That's the third one. Sorry, the fourth one is mean you need to really calm down the mind, right? Equanimity, let the mind calm down. Okay? And the fifth one is one should disregard him and pay no attention to him. Okay, and then of course then that people are having that problem. You just let them alone, and let them alone because you understand that he just wanted to be suffered that way. So what we can do, we cannot, right? Get it now? So those are one of the ways that according to the sutta telling you how to remove, the text. And the other is I quoted from some other. I think I need to jump some of them. Basically, it's and people can reflect upon it. The problem of the anger, how that can be a problem, can be something a problem to you. And this is reflection is really important. And the other one is that, and then you also please remember the Buddha's advice. This is a little extreme because when I was in New York at the time, I sometimes been invited to go to give a little talk or sharing some Buddhist message to the synagogue. Okay, and at the time the topic is about anger issue, how they think about anger and how the Judaism think about that. But when he asked me, I told him, I know it's a little extreme, but this is at least that's how we learn. Whether you agree or not is fine, but this has become a model for us. I don't mean definitely I can do it. That's the next one. That means the one that the Buddha always advises us. They say, Bhikkhu, even if the bandits were to serve you, savagely limb by limb with a two-handled sword, one who gave rise to a mind of hate towards them would not be carrying out my teaching. Wow. You know what I'm saying? It means you shouldn't have anger. Even people, the bad people, the bandits, come to use the sword to saw your limbs. You still have to much loving kindness mind. And he said it very clearly. They say it would not be, if you do that, if you have the hate towards them, you would not be carrying out my teaching, okay? Okay, anyway, I know it's very hard, but I still somehow, when I was in Sri Lanka learning this, I really take this thing, what are you talking about? I really disagree because I'm a kind of angry person actually. I'm a hot-tempered person if you ask me. But then when I'm getting older and older and older, but I definitely love it because it certainly, when I suddenly get angry, if I remember that the Buddha said that, because I must be faithful to the Buddha, and I definitely know the Buddha have no anger, and if he could say so, then must have something there, right? And that's what I learned. Okay, remember that, eat it, what we call swallow it, fine. Sometimes I get really angry, but I just, all right, I just swallow it, fine. But I mean, I think this is really good advice in a way. Yeah, because just believe the Buddha's advices to do. So I don't mean the way I could do. I don't know if the people really want to saw my, limbs or even my little fingers. Those are the limbs. I certainly will get hate, but but it's because this advice is there. I mean, I want to say is that sometimes because you have a really true faith and thinking that okay, the Buddha said that, so I will just follow it. At least try not to get angry. And that's another way. To people maybe, I guess, to some people who really at the time had a really great faith to the Buddha, I guess that maybe will work, and remember this. However, when I said that, remember that the rabbi told me, looks like the Buddhists have this radical, what we call radical love idea. It's in very extreme way, I mean, this certainly is, very difficult to address, I guess, in general for other people. All right, and that's another. And also, I guess I need to say something like also, but the Buddha also said there's so many about anger, but I just pick some. Say one who repay an angry person with anger, thereby makes things worse for himself. Not repaying an angry person with anger, one wins the battle hard to win. But in other words, it's clear the Buddha also believe that it's hard to win, but that's what we have to do. So one practice for the welfare for both, because you not only just you must think about it, anything you do, that have to be good for yourself and the other. That means for the both. When you have anger, by that itself, you are not good for yourself already, right? But definitely the people don't like you too. That's not for the both. So he said, when knowing that one's foe is angry, one mindfully maintain one's peace. Okay. So if one know that they're angry, they should really mindfully maintain one peace. Now this is also the word upasamati. So you sometimes will translate peace, but I here like to say peace because I guess if you want to understand all the Buddhist concept of peace, certainly it's very clear for the Buddhist concepts. If you really have the peace in Buddhist understanding, you definitely learn how to be no anger. Okay. So now I like to differentiate the word passion and anger. Okay. But this is not my subject. But I have to thank those days when I was when I studied in England. Of course, I also have some close relation with some of the chaplain actually in my university chaplaincy. And then some chaplain will discuss about this issue, and then I told them that how the Buddha's understanding the anger issue. Maybe it sounds a little bit passive to some other people. However, he was looks like he doesn't really agree with me, and he was saying that. So how can you have this? How can you have a passion for your missionary? If you don't have kind of like when you feel injustice the word and so forth. This maybe shows a little anger too. So at that time I have to say I didn't really solve the problem. I'm not here to say I can solve the problem yet, but I think at least certainly I just keep quiet because in those days we have to learn very humble and just not to speak out. But the problem at the end, I was learning two things. One thing I learned, actually we need passion. Yes, what is passion? We do have the passion, not with the anger, but this is maybe if I have a time, remind me, I maybe try to find address that issue. However, certainly, and the other thing, certainly, that certainly is a very good chance for me. That's why I like this interface sometimes, because people give you some idea, and then you just learn it. You never thought about it. Really, it not that without the Buddha teaching, we certainly know it's very advanced. Sometimes we say it's too advanced, or is that because of the anger issue about here to say that you have to maintain the peace? Is it too advanced for everybody? Or actually what the Buddha trying to tell us? It's because when the other religious people, they might have different understanding of certain things. And then they may be questioning you, maybe they're challenging you, maybe sometimes we just simply discussion and then it makes you think, Okay. I don't always like to give answer because I can never give all the answer, and I'm sure the answer will find by you. But I just want to say it's good that not just I'm going to say this thing, but put up some question for yourself to think about. In Buddhist perspective, what about the passion? Where are they? And is the passion have to go with the angles? Yeah. All right, and now, This I think I would just omit a little bit. Then, of course, the Buddha also just maybe at that time to reflect the society at that time. How do you know your anger? It's very clear. When you don't want people good, that certainly they show you have anger already. Or if you have this resentment. For example, you have the anger of the people, you want them to be ugly, you want them to be no wealth, no friends. I'm sure you know this. And it's always depicted in the high school, right? Especially the woman. I don't know if it's true or it just happened in woman. But oh, look at that, And then she's not belong to our group. And when she found that, she had friend, she still to try to pursue the friend. Don't mingle with her. She's not nice and so forth, right? So and in here it's just from the Sutta was say that actually there are 7 of them, but I think that's just pick some like you don't want the people who have wealth, richer than you. You don't want the people. It's not just jealousy. Actually, is in Buddhism answer. This is also anger. You have anger already. When you have anger towards a person, you definitely don't want this thing to happen to them. They become more better than you. In other words, even the worst thing that you don't want to be die and born to the good place. You want them die, go to hell. And that's even say here. It's say, and then when the people after die, may he reborn in a place of misery, in a bad destination, in the lower world, in hell. Like that. So that's in the Buddhism think that's also having the end. Okay. But here I put a metaphor to reflect because sometimes we have sometimes person may have the anger, we don't know. So according to Buddhist understanding, so you need to reflect. When you have this kind of idea, this is not actually you're having anger. You could say you're having an anger issue. So you need to remove that. All right. Of course, traditionally it's believed that when you have anger, when you die, you will be born in a bad place. Okay, I don't need to say that. This is the most common for Chinese community, I'm sure. Once I work in a place, I don't want to say the name, and then remember I was asked by the chief person there, and the chief person asked me, I have an anger issue. And I say, yeah, no, of course. Every time I could see the people around you crying. But I'm seriously. Do not think the temple where everybody is peaceful, okay? And I say, yes, I see that because, I said to cry. And then she said, but, what can I do? Of course you need to remove it. You need to do that. She said, but people tell me I was born as the, she didn't say that born as the bad place, but I was born as Asura, Asura, Asura actually in Buddhist mythology believe that you could born as a god, but it's angry God. You're always angry and jealous, and you have a good thing. However, you have only 2 bad things: is that you don't want people better than you, and then you're powerful as a God, but you're angry also. Easy get angry. And I told her, I just keep quiet. I say, do you like to be Asura? No, I don't like. But people just say that I will be Asura. Actually, this is a good advice for some of you. Because she was very old, and I didn't want to say the fact, like these sutras say, the Buddhism thing that you're not just Asura, you might be worse than that. Because I was show my loving kindness, very kind. I didn't say anything, and she was just didn't change. Even she was very nice to me. I was the only person she didn't get too angry. A little bit, yes, she lost her control, but at least I won't cry, And maybe that was the reason I didn't want to say, passionately tell her, you cannot do this anymore. But really, almost every day, those nuns there were tortured, crying. Anyway, now the funny part is this, and this is what it was. Then later on, I left the place, and I feel a little regret. You know why? I thought, one of the duty I didn't do. When she was asking me, because she trusts my knowledge of Buddhism, she asked me this question. I was just out of compassion, out of love for her, and I just didn't want to hurt her. I just didn't say anything. I just asking a very simple question: do you really want to be Asura? That's all. I didn't really, and because it was come from a really old generation as a Chinese, Sometimes in the original Chinese, you cannot talk too much about theory. You have to tell him, yes, you will go to hell. You should not anger. That's the only way you do. And that time I didn't have the skillful means to do that. I just keep quiet. And that is one thing that when you're getting older, like now I'm getting older, and I just thought, I made a mistake, because when there was a good chance she was asking me, I should have really tell her, Maybe there was a chance she would start to reflect more. And I took the responsibility that I didn't tell her that, Okay? And this is also what I want to say. Sometimes it's a good way to think about when we talk about our loving kindness or the compassion, how we really implement the loving kindness or the compassion, in what way we are doing it, okay? Not just because I don't want to hurt her feeling. But in the long run, actually, I hurt her more, If you really believe, Buddhists believe that the reincarnation, if you really anger issue going there, it's not good for her now, and not good for the community, and not good for her in the future, let's say the reborn also, and so forth. Anyway, all right, I would just say something. I think people are getting very sleepy a little bit, but I just like to say a few things, because it's more boring than comes, I need to rush a little bit. We didn't talk about remove, okay? And then now, in the Buddha teaching saying that there are twofold. There are actually altogether, you could say 10 ways of remove the anger. 10, we believe that you certainly, if you follow these 10 kind of method, you can remove the anger. Not just only the sutra saying, but in more almost actually like the commentary and including, of course, the Buddha's teachings saying that. So I will just jump this, and we divide into twofold. One fold is belong to what we call restraint. You need to learn how to restrain, so that we will not let the anger comes, okay? And the other is called abandoning. You need to be abandoning. So altogether, you could say that as a 10 kind of thing you need to follow. But if you want to put the list, actually there are more than that. I would just simply put this mention in the commentary, and then with the sutra support some of our idea, okay? First, we need to learn how to restrain by the good virtue. Basically, you follow the rules first. According, as I say, if you follow the Buddhist monk rule as a monk, and then supposedly a lot of problem will not be come along, and you will not be angry with yourself or even others. And the restraint by the mindfulness, this is very popular nowadays. People think that, you could just do mindfulness, every problem is solved. But you do see that not every problem is solved. But I think this is explained here. Because yes, mindfulness helps your anger. It can kind of help you remove the anger, but it's not just the only factors, thinking. Firstly, in other words, I want to say, you definitely must have this idea and follow the virtue. Or you could say the rule, like in Buddhism, mean not killing and so forth, right? So if you have this wanted to kill big thing, just for your own satisfaction, for example, and then that certainly then the anger issue will be there. So those are the rules. Like what maybe a different religion set up the rule, but don't even follow those like the 10 rules or 5 rules and so forth. This anger issue will get less. And the secondly, as I say, just mentioned now, they call mindfulness. What does it mean by restraint by mindfulness? And now I look at a lot of books and modern people write about. It's maybe more regarded this as that. You need to learn how to guard your eyes faculty and then your other faculty. For example, when you see something that makes you angry, you must know, my eyes seen something that makes me angry. Then you have a mindful, you're aware of that. And you should shut your eyes, don't see it, right? You don't want to, I want to see more. What he's doing to me. Why he continue to do that? What's happening? And the more, right? So like that, this is called mindfulness. You have this mindfulness. The same thing, the sound, right? It's the same thing. We always have this problem among the monks also. Always as an abbot is not very fortunate thing. Trust me. Don't be abbot if you can. You always hear the complaint is, what? He should complain. Abbot, he's very bad monk. Why? He closed the door so loud. I said, why didn't you tell him? Don't. I did tell him. He still stirred. Then I called the monk. Why you want to close the door? I didn't. He making a noise. He always talking in the room, and I could hear he's talking. So you only hear the complaining, you know. And I because I'm not a Buddha, I don't I don't know for him to say what. I only say, please try not to, close the door. And you have this kind of people. They never know they close the door very hard. Boom! They didn't hear the sound. And sometimes I tell them, actually, to be honest, I really hear the sound, even I live so far away. And some people walk like elephant, even, sometimes the monk, they like quiet and suddenly things happen. Anyway, so, but, according to this, but now, as I say, this is good to remind me next time if I have a little authority of account. Don't you remember the Buddha saying this restraint? So when you hear, you must know, hearing. Be mindful, just know hearing. You don't have to be some kind of sound, make a sound, And this is called mindfulness. I mean, of course, for fact, it's true, it works. But as I say, but only just restrict to that. That's why Buddhism don't say it as abandon, just only say it as a restraint. Because to the restraint, yes, your anger issue is maybe with that eyes, ears, tongue, why you cook this sucker all over food, they taste so bad. I don't eat chili, why you cook the chili, so spicy. Like that, the taste and the smell, that's also another problem. I don't need to say that. And the body also, what we call the body. Body is to do with the when you have cushion, some people say, I don't want to do meditation here. I must bring my cushion. I say, okay, fine. But why don't we just sit now because we start to meditate now? They don't want, they laugh because they think this cushion is too hard, right? Because sit here, they feel uncomfortable. This is called meditator. It's so strange. But then I was thinking, even though you want to sit fine, but for one sitting and when there's a break, you just go to take it. They just don't want to. They forget the restraint of mindfulness and they get angry. And if you ask them to sit in this stuff, this is a bad place. Why they don't prepare the good sit for me and so on. Anyway, that's the body. And the mind, of course, the mind is that when you're obsessed in the idea, you don't know you're upset with the idea. So you get angry. All right. And what about this restraint by the patient also? Sometimes you need to be patient. People really, making a noise. You just know, all right, he's like that. Just be patient. It's the same thing that be patient. Like suddenly you get angry because of the weather too, right? It's too hot, it's too cold, right? Don't you have this problem? I love now my new community here. They don't complain that to me because I know that nuns, they live in the downstate, they always tell me, oh, you're so afraid of cold, so we open an aircon, maybe a little higher. The air conditioner always go to the basement. So they always, when they sleep, they have a big blanket even during the summertime. Now, this is how I think that's good community, because at least they don't complain. They may just tell me, how are you doing? They say, oh, did you open the air conditioner too high? I said, oh, yes, I didn't know that. It was really, because I didn't live in the basement, so I don't know how cold that could be. But at least they are not angry. But this is patient. They know, okay, They love that. They were so afraid of the cold, like that monk. He's big and fat and tall, right? And he like more cool. And when the people are no any fat there, of course they were so afraid of this, the cold, And that's why, basically, this is as the Buddha said, this is the restraint by the patient. When the people are patient, the anger is also resolved by that, by the instance. And then, very important is this statement. Then restraint by the knowledge, Don't think that Buddha somebody just talk about mindfulness. Please do not think that way. Okay. And also restrained by the knowledge. They say that's why the Buddha say whatever stream they are in the world. The stream here means like a bad kind of thing continue. Okay. Mindfulness is a blockage of them. Yes, mindfulness will block them. I speak of this as restraint of the stream. Now he say that the Buddha say I speak this as a restraint of the stream. It's restraint of the stream. And then he say, however, they are closed off by the wisdom. It's still wisdom as the ultimate important thing, So that's why if you have knowledge, sometimes you will find you get angry because you don't understand the thing. If you understand the thing, you don't get angry, right? Even why you're angry, sometimes you don't understand the whole situation, what's happening. If you understand the whole situation, maybe you don't get anger in such a way. So let's say I'm sure when people get mature, right? Supposedly when you're older, you're being mature. When you're mature, people telling you something, some people think, why he's like this? When some other old man think, oh, it's nothing. Why? Because of knowledge in their experience, they understand thing already. And then the anger don't come. For example, they understand, oh, why he just left, didn't tell me. And the knowledge, sometimes you never know. Maybe he was suddenly have too busy and forget. He was too engaged or blah blah blah. Or maybe being kicked back. Just left. So this is knowledge. So you don't get angry because you understand. You have a knowledge. So this is certainly why the Buddha also say about the knowledge, the wisdom as the most important. All right. And then, of course, restrained by the energy also. This is the fifth one. So, what do you mean by energy in Buddhism? He will not tolerate the arising sense of thought, but abandon it, dispel it. You must have this restraint. That you don't tolerate this kind of anger, or let's say this kind of anger, or because your lust makes you angry, you don't get what you want, and so forth. Like that, this kind of thing, you need to know that you must want to put it aside. You must have that kind of energy. In Buddhism term called vidya, you must really have that kind of energy. Now we come to a little bit more complicated. And then if those things are the kind of like in the daily life you could do it, and this you even can practice in the daily life, then you start to abandoning. First one is called Dhammadipa Sak, mean you abandon in a particular respect. What does it mean? I don't want to say it in a long way. Maybe best to understand is but of course here's the way to say it. So, like the abandoning of darkness at night by means of light. Okay, when there's a darkness, how do you put the darkness away? Of course, you must have the light, and then the darkness goes away. So here in the teaching is a very complicated, but I just like to say, but at least we must know that you have to abandon the anger, for example, enforce it, enforce it, that love. Then let's say you get angry to the people, so angry. But if you have the love to the people and think about the love, so because of the particular love sustained, so strong, and then that anger will be dissolved, like the dark being dissolved by the means of the light, But of course here, it's originally the meaning are something much more deeper in the Buddhist practice. We have anger because I think about me. I have anger with my body because I'm not healthy. Why I'm angry? Because I don't understand what my body means to me. And I get angry with lots of concepts. Why people don't listen to me, for example. Or even I suddenly get angry why I don't get this, so forth. And because we don't understand, the knowledge comes because of conditionally. I know this a little deeper. In other words, you must get the knowledge, you must have the good condition for you to have the knowledge, for example, right? So, you can create a condition, but you don't have to be angry with what's happening, what I'm saying? Because you must, instead of understand, let's say you want to learn something, let's say in the old days especially, if you want to learn something, you definitely need to go to that university only so to learn, otherwise you have nowhere to learn. But when you're angry, you don't angry sulky because of a problem, you must create a condition yourself. That's why in the second understanding, you can actually, what we mean by this, a particular respect means your anger can be resolved because you have another kind of respect, to that the light that itself dissolved. So now you must understand the conditionality and so forth. So those are a little deeper. I will just jump, but I just say that mean by that. Then you can definitely kind of like abandoning. That problem would never arise again. It's not like a restraint in some way. It's always kind of like maybe can occur and occur. And this certainly at the end is become a knowledge. Become a wisdom. Okay. And then what mean by abandoning by suppression? This suppression is not actually suppress your anger. We don't have this way of doing it. Okay. We don't have that language actually in Buddhism called suppress anger. We do have a language, just like we mentioned, that you have to learn to be restrained by tolerate, right? We do have it. We don't actually in Buddhism we don't have the suppress anger. So you have this here, the suppression mean, because this is Japanese Buddhist language, it means that you then develop the jhana. You must have the dhyana in Sanskrit, right? You must have this meditation dhyana. And then because it's believed that when your meditation dhyana is there, your anger will definitely not arise. Okay? This might say suppression. And also your dhyana, also in Buddhism, believe they have first dhyana, second dhyana, third dhyana, fourth dhyana, and then the dhyana of the spaceless, the dhyana of the conscious, white consciousness, and so forth. There are so many levels of dhyana. But each dhyana achieved because you can put down some of the factors. And why we want to mention this? Because the higher dhyana you have, your anger is supposed to be even less than. I mean, your anger will not be even almost not arise in a more subtle way. But I like to explain in some other way also. Actually, I always believe that when people have the experience of jhana, they can make a very dhyana, they can make a good choice. You want dhyana or you want anger? Okay, of course the foolish people want anger, alright? Why? Because they don't have dhyana. They never know what dhyana is about. If they have dhyana, they know such peaceful, so wonderful kind of feeling. Why you want that anger? With that wonderful feeling, you still can do the job and work. Why do you want that? So I guess, but here, since we use the word bahana or abandoning, not just restraint, it's just telling you this is even more sharper because when you have the dhyana, you can actually really cut it down, become weaker, make the anger. It almost like you have a big normal anger there. You started to make it become piece by piece and become much more easier to handle. It's just not like I have the way to make you feel okay, put you aside, like a restraint, but you really make it become like weaker and weaker. Maybe put in some, if the dhyana always been, using the simile as a water, if you put some water, maybe it start to be dissolved and more, become weaker and weaker. So, okay. And I'm sorry, few things I will be end, okay? Don't blame me. Don't be angry now, okay? Now, the other one is abandoning by eradication. I mean, this is certainly why by eradication, it means basically, of course, in the Buddhist teaching, that then you must understand there's a Four Noble Path. And this is a little bit difficult. In other words, I put it in simple version. When someone gets angry, you must understand this is supposed to be happening. Not supposed to be happening, this you can know it avoid. In your whole life, this is what we call dukkha. In your whole life, you bow to meet people you don't like. And you bow to meet people don't like you. Right? You bow to facing the people disagree with you. Or you want to get something, you don't get it. You understand this is dukkha, this is certainly there. Right? You ask anyone, the king, the so-called president, they don't get what they want all the time. Right? They know that they believe they can have everything. Okay. No, so this is what we call the path or the Four Noble. So you have to abandon by event because at that time, the anger, what makes you anger, all these facts actually, you have no way to avoid. Now, it's interesting. When you understand the dukkha according to Buddhism, so like I was getting old, my physical body is not going well. Some people, if they forget about the truth of the dukkha, the suffering, they say, why? I cannot work now. I used to carry 200 pounds, now not even 10 pounds. Right. So, but if you understand this is, Buddhism say, old age is dukkha. Old age is suffering. In other words, there's inevitable thing will happen. You just accept it when you can accept it. Now, the other thing that you start to see is only your mind wanted to be not this way, it makes you anger. Okay? And then when you see that actually, when you really see is because your mind wanted this way, what we call the desire, the craving. Because the craving makes you that only when you see then you start to really understand the teaching, the Dhamma, the craving is the trigger of you, not because of all trigger is the craving. And then it's believed that the craving is solved and you see the Nibbana. Something like that. So you have this kind of mechanism or principle going on all the time. Then you then abandon it because of by the eradication. This is very important. Only with that in Buddhism belief, then you see the Nibbana and you see the path. So that's when then you your anger issue will be started to be dissolved. If you particularly talk about anger, this is not only just about anger, but if then you can slowly dissolve it, and it become abandoned by subsiding. Here, actually, in Buddhist belief that only that you start to see how one become change. Okay, maybe back reason. And one is abandoned by subsiding, and then one will can always, because they have the knowledge, understanding of how one can abandon all this, the anger, if you put anger as one example, and then they will always just live in the Nibbana. In other words, that's what we call by escape. All right, this I will just conclude basically mean the final abandoning actually, in other words, is lay out the whole path as well. It's very important in the Buddhist concept. You know, if I just take the anger as one example, basically means that if we have those restraint of the final restraint, and then the other final abandoning, and then in Buddhism believe that ultimately, then someone, according to the sutta also, then someone can totally abandon to the anger. The last remark I want to say, why this is also mentioned here like this, because at that time actually the Buddha interest was, yes, during the Buddha's time, it's believed that there are so many disciples, followers of the Buddha teaching, they become the saint as what we call the first level of saint and second level of saint. It becomes a saint, but they still have anger issue. However, but now how one can become a third level of saint, they know how to practice very well. It's because they still have to solve one of the things is the anger issue in a very subtle state. Okay, and then that's why, in other words, this fire abandoning is also serve as not just saying that the removal, but the concept of removal in Buddhism is also serve as the method and the path that how one can totally abandon, or not only just anger, of course, but all like the product, so that then someone can really understand. Okay, I will just finish my talk, and thank you. I just like to put this at the end, saying that don't forget actually it's sure that the Buddha say, if one abandon them, particularly now I like to address the anger issue, and then can one abide happy and glad, and he can live learning anything with smoothly, right? Like that. But thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Sadhu.